to use PETG as the support interface.
So here I have this part, and I need to run supports out here. And so if I want to run PETG as the interface, here's how I do it. I go over into the Bamboo Slicer, and if you run in Prusa and MMU, you can do the same thing in Prusa Slicer as well. I'm going to use tree, so I'm going to turn on my supports. We'll go to tree, and then I'm going to go down here, and first setting I'll show is just using raft interface, which is right here under filament and supports, and you change that. Oh, I got to resync my filaments. Okay, and number 4 here is PETG. Okay, so the next thing you change is you go down here and you go to top Z distance. It's 0.2. I'm going to change that to 0, because what we're doing is we're doing a solid support. We want the support as tight as possible against that print so that that surface is in the right spot and smooth. And then we want to go down here to interface pattern. I don't like the default, which is rectangular. I like the concentric or the grid. So we're going to make that concentric. And the last thing you need to change is top interface spacing. And you change that to 0. Okay, now this thing takes a minute to slice, so let me slice it here, and I'll pause. So it's done now. And I didn't show you, is right above the interface pattern is top interface layers. I have it set at 2. So that means the 2 layers at the part will be PETG. Now, because this is at an angle, I'm getting these PETG lines through the supports, which I'm not really sure why Bamboo does that, but they do. And now in this particular print, because there's so many of them, I have had cases where the tree support has failed because PLA doesn't like sticking to PETG. So in those cases, what I have to do is go back over to filament and support, and the support raft base, change that also to PETG. Here, let me reslice and show you. So here's what it looks like. The whole tree is PETG. Now, why I don't like using this setting is, one, my build plate is set up for PLA, which is 55 degrees on the textured PEI plate. But PETG likes, what is it, 70 or 75 is the setting. So it's not sticking well down here. Now, they have a pretty big brim around it, so it should be okay. But I have cases where they don't stick well, and they get knocked over, knocked loose, and all that good stuff because they can't stick to the base, because this is a PLA print, and vice versa. Where if my print was PETG and my support here is PLA, yeah, weird things happen. So that's why I like the just using the top layers and not the whole tree. Oh, the other side effect of doing it this way is every layer is a spool change. So it took this 6-hour print to 17 hours. When you're printing in 2 materials in this machine, and this is the X1 carbon, you want to make sure you have this door open when you're doing PLA and PETG, or even pull the top off of it. Because, again, surface plate's going to be set for PLA. That nozzle is going to be increasing heat and then reducing heat and increasing heat and reducing heat. And if it gets too hot, you start getting clogs, which I've lived through, and it's not fun. Where leaving the door open or running it on a P1P with no sides, multi-material seems to print much better. The other thing to warn you about is it will cry about plates. They tend to run well on the textured PEI, but if you use the cool plate or the engineering plate, they tend to give you errors and say you can't print this way. So it's not all the time. It depends on the mix and what you're doing. You can use this procedure both ways. So if you're a PETG part with PLA interface or a PLA part with PETG interface, I've had good luck with PETG parts and PLA interfaces. I've had a few failures going the other way, PLA part with PETG interface, but it works. and it's a very cost-effective way of doing supports. And again, technically these are solid supports, so you get a much nicer finish on the part in this procedure. Just keep in mind of what support you're using and how much mix is there in there, and you don't want it slipping or breaking as you're trying to print. Hope that makes sense.